The Southwest was home to the Hopi, Navajo, and Apache tribes. The hot, dry desert area includes what is known as Arizona, New Mexico, southern Colorado, and northern Mexico. Colorado has valleys and pine forests. Southern Arizona and southern New Mexico have deserts filled with cactus. And the area that borders Arizona and California is a desert with the Colorado River running through it. The desert has many secrets. It holds hidden water in gullies or arroyos, which are hollows in the ground. The southwestern Indians use the water from the arroyos to irrigate the corn, beans, and squash. They built stone dams to protect the crops from flash floods. They taught other tribes, like the Apache and Navajo, some of their farming skills. Cotton grows wild in the desert. Cotton was a real treasure for the southwestern Indians. They wove cotton into cloth and made lightweight clothing to protect themselves from the sun, to protect their legs and feet from the rough land and sticker-filled grasses. They made sandals and boots from leather. Some of the desert land was hills with flat tops called mesas. The word mesa comes from the Spanish word table. The landscape looks like big tabletops. The southwestern people built many things with the abundant clay, stones, and straw material around them. Houses were made using clay and straw in a sun-dried brick form called adobe. Their houses were built in several layers, some as high as 8 stories. They used ladders to get from one level to the next. In the event of an attack, the ladders would be drawn up and the home became a fort. The Navajo sometimes lived in round houses made of brush or wood, and the Apache made teepees they called wickiups. The Apache and the Navajo had herds of sheep and often moved with them. The southwestern Indians were excellent craftsmen. They were known for their beautiful clay pottery, turquoise jewelry, decorative woolen rugs, and fine beadwork. They were resourceful too. They made baskets, food, and clothing from desert plants like the yucca. The Hopi made dolls of wood or clay called kachinas. The kachinas were the mythical ancestors of the Pueblo people. Some people dressed in wildly colored outfits and masks and danced special dances. The Hopi tribe does a dance that they call the snake dance. They dance in prayer to the rain gods to bring rain, to refresh the dry desert.
Further south and west of the Great Plains, the land is mostly dry. It has rocky mesas, mountains, steep cliffs, and deep canyons.
People of the Southwest.
The natives of the Southwest learn to adapt to a land that is hot during the day and often gets very cold at night. Here it can be dry for months and then suddenly get a storm that produces flash floods. The Pueblo people were tribes that lived in adobe houses that were built next to or on top of one another. To enter a house or reach another level, the people climbed ladders. The earliest Pueblo people were the Anasazi. Signs of their culture date back as far as 500 AD. The Hopi and Zuni were considered Pueblo people also. The Hopi men worked in the fields and hunted, while the Hopi women prepared meals in large stoves made of adobe, which was dried clay. The Southwest was home to the Navajo as well as the Pueblo people. The Navajo did not live in villages. Instead, they built their homes in small, family-sized groups, miles apart from one another. Their houses were called hogans, which were cone-shaped houses built by covering a log frame with mud and or grass. When Spanish explorers came to this area from 1500 to the 1600s, they brought sheep, and this changed the Navajo way of life. They used wool to make blankets and clothing. The sheep were a source of food as well. In the west was a region known as the California Intermountain region. Many tribes made their homes in this lush area.
People of California.
The native people of this large area were as diverse as the environments they lived in, from the forests and rivers near today's border between California and Oregon, to the sand, rock, and cactus trees of the high desert on the southern end of the state. The native peoples here lived very different lives. Far south, the Mojave people farmed for much of their food in this hot climate. With little grass available for basket making, they learned to make pots of clay for cooking and storing food. Further north and extending west to the coast, the Chumash tribe discovered a unique natural resource. Tar bubbled up from the ground in their area. They used the tar to seal the seams in their canoes. With waterproof canoes, they were able to travel long distances up and down the coastline to trade with other tribes. The Miwok and the Maidu lived in the rich valley and mountains in the center of California. Near the coast, their homes were covered with wood and sod. Inland, their houses resembled teepees, but their supporting poles were covered with bark. Their summer homes were covered for shade and open-sided to let out the heat. Each village had a large round building at the center where they held meetings. Deep indentations in the rock were made by women as they ground acorns for flour. The surrounding forests and rivers were rich with animals and fish for food. Leaves and grasses were abundant for their beautiful and functional baskets. The young people of the village played games similar to present-day soccer, lacrosse, and football. North and on the Pacific coast, the Yurok tribe used the abundant redwood trees to build houses and canoes. They hunted deer for food and used antlers for tools. They gathered nuts and berries from the forest, grinding acorns into flour for bread. They also relied on the yearly salmon run for food.